Hello, this is Kylie with Fem and Flow. Welcome back to the Blueprint Restored series. So, in the last episode, I think I mentioned that the next episode would be part 4 on Earth, but actually, I realized I needed to go more in depth on in your mind. So, that is what brings me to today's episode, the Blueprint Restored, part 4 in your mind. So, in part 2, we explored the body as the architecture of coherence. We talked about how the fourth dimension shows up in the nervous system, the bridge between time, mind, and embodiment. But today I want to go deeper because the mind itself is one of the most hijacked, misunderstood, and manipulated parts of the human blueprint. So many people feel like they're trapped in their own heads, replaying the past, anxious about the future, or locked in survival loops that just won't stop. And here's the truth, it is not your fault. Your mind was designed to be a golden conductor of presence, but the environment we live in has scrambled it. What we're going to do today is name how that hijacking works, and more importantly, how you can restore sovereignty in your own mind. So let's start it off by talking about the hijacked mind. The mind has been systematically hijacked. And I don't just mean through trauma or personal experiences. Think about it. Every notification, every algorithm, every breaking news headline is designed to keep you in beta brainwaves, scattered, restless, and reactive. Constant EMFs, artificial light, nutrient depletion, and chronic stress create a nervous system that's hypervigilant and undernourished. Alcohol, stimulants, and poor sleep scramble the natural rhythms that repair your nervous system. When that happens, your mind isn't free. It's being run by loops, old trauma loops, fear loops, thought loops you didn't even consent to. This is why so many people today are struggling with mental health. Anxiety, depression, racing thoughts, compulsive scrolling, rumination. These are not personal failures. They are evidence of a system designed to hijack the mind's natural coherence. And here's another layer of it all: identification. We are taught to become our thoughts, to equate every mental image, impulse, or internal voice with me. But thoughts are not you, they're signals, they're frequencies. So, where do thoughts come from? They're generated by your own nervous system and they're pulled from the collective field. The fourth dimension, the mental plane, is like a giant shared bandwidth of memory, imagination, and possibility. Every unresolved loop humanity has ever run exists there. When your nervous system is dysregulated, your antenna tunes into the noisier channels: fear, shame, outrage, despair. When it's coherent, you naturally tune to higher channels: insight, clarity, creative flow, love. This creates a spiral of cause and effect. When your health destabilizes, your nervous system destabilizes. When your nervous system destabilizes, your mind becomes easier to hijack. Without a coherent body and energetic vessel, it's far easier for external systems, media, marketing, ideology, and even unseen forces to capture your attention and run loops through you. As you've probably noticed if you've been following this series, for centuries, our collective health and environment have been intentionally kept far from the divine blueprint. Because of that, society's minds have been much easier to manipulate and hijack. People are so used to living in this cage that they don't even realize what is true and natural. The dark doesn't need to directly control your thoughts, it just sets up triggers. It also creates thought forms, but I've talked about that before. Thought forms are essentially seeds of a narrative that the dark plants in the collective consciousness, so we create it in our reality, essentially. But for now, we're talking about triggers. Those triggers fire your dysregulated nervous system and trap you in loops. And here's the paradox: those loops often push people into compulsive saviorism, a hyper vigilant rush to fix the world or save everyone that feels virtuous but is still rooted in fear and fragmentation rather than coherence. From the outside, it looks altruistic. On the inside, it's still a hijacked nervous system running a survival program. So the hijack isn't only about passivity, it's also about frantic overactivity. Both sides, both apathy and compulsive saviorism, are part of the same trap. They keep you out of presence and out of true tone action. And this is just another example of a duality trap. But our mind is not a fixed prison, it's a movable dial. But until your body and nervous system are stabilized, that dial will default to the lowest, loudest frequencies. Once you regulate the vessel, you nourish it, ground it, and restore coherence, you naturally stop picking up static and start picking up pure signal. You stop living in loops and start living more in flow. And that is exactly the work of restoring the mental blueprint. We're not just forcing ourselves to think differently, but we're actually tuning our entire system differently so thought itself arises from a higher band of the collective field. To put this all in other words, your mind is an interface. It's not a prison, it's a tuning dial. But when we don't know this, the very mechanism designed to give you freedom becomes a cage. And that's a real trap of all of this because the dark doesn't have to physically imprison you. It only has to manipulate you into building your own mental prison by identifying with low frequency loops. And this is why people feel like they can't get out of their own head. I know I used to feel this way. I literally used to wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety and think about mistakes I made years ago. That was my own mental prison. But I don't have that anymore. And I know it's because I had this whole spiritual awakening and I regulated my nervous system and am on this path that I talk about. When this is happening, it's not that our mind is broken. It's that the bridge of coherence, our nervous system, our brain waves, the myelin that carries the signals, has been destabilized. And we're just picking up static instead of this pure signal. But once we understand the mechanics, we can start to shift them. We can stop identifying with every thought and instead ask, is this mine? Does this feel like truth or static? We can regulate our nervous system so we stop broadcasting fear and start receiving insight. And we can choose environments, relationships, and practices that raise our baseline frequency so we're tuning to the higher parts of the collective mind. Like I said already, our mind is not a fixed prison, it's a movable dial. So when we learn all of this and learn how to work with it, and we learn how to nourish the physical, regulate the nervous system, and choose our frequency, then these loops dissolve and time softens, our presence and our flow returns. And this flow is what turns into a bridge of freedom, essentially. So, if both apathy and compulsive saviorism are part of the duality trap, you might be asking, how do we step out of it without swinging between the two poles? So, this is the paradox. From the outside, someone choosing presence over this frenzy can look apathetic, and someone choosing flow over reaction can look delusional or like they're doing nothing. Without a true spiritual understanding, and by that I mean a felt connection within, paired with an understanding of the quantum mechanics of consciousness, this middle way will not make sense to people. And that's because the hijacked mind sees everything in binaries: action versus inaction, good versus bad, savior versus bystander. But the true way out of the loop isn't to pick a side, it's to step out of the polarity altogether and into coherence. So, to exploit the paradox, we don't fight it. We withdraw our energy from the loop itself. And we go within, we regulate our nervous system, and we raise our baseline frequency. So instead of reacting to triggers or overcompensating with frantic action, we tune our internal dial to the higher channel of the collective field. So from there, our actions or our stillness arise from clarity rather than reaction to these triggers. And this is the inner quantum pivot point. So there's three parts. Number one, going within pulls you out of the hijack frequency and back into your own source signal. Number two, raising your frequency shifts what thoughts, insights, and impulses you're able to receive. And number three, acting from coherence means your doing no longer perpetuates the loop but starts to dissolve it. So, like I said, from the outside, this may still look wrong to a world trained to equate busyness with virtue and passivity with failure. But from the inside, you'll know it by its tone. No urgency, no self sacrifice fantasy, no numb avoidance, just steady presence and true tone action. And this is how you break the paradox. By anchoring in your own frequency, you stop being manipulated by the loop of fear versus saviorism. You become a third thing entirely: a stabilizer, a node of coherence, and someone whose presence itself shifts the field. So from there, whatever action you take or don't take carries a quantum signature that actually unravels the trap instead of feeding it. So now let's talk about this middle way as a practice. It is one thing to understand the paradox of apathy versus saviorism. It's another thing to live the middle way. The hijacked mind loves concepts, but coherence only comes through practice. The middle way is not a lofty idea. It's a muscle you build in the micro moments of everyday life. So here's what that looks like in practice. Before posting on social media, pause and ask, am I sharing this from reaction, outrage, or guilt? Or is it from clarity, love, and steadiness? The pause itself is the middle way. It interrupts the loop and lets your nervous system reset before you hit share. Before responding to a text or email, just breathe. Feel your body for 5 seconds. If your chest is tight or your stomach is clenched, you're likely in a reactive loop. Wait until your breath is even and your tone is steady, and respond from there. That's coherence. When you feel drawn into a cause or issue, check the tone, not just the message. Does it make you feel frantic, guilty, pressured, or panicked? That's likely a hijack. Does it invite you into clarity, compassion, and grounded action? That's closer to true tone. The middle way is knowing you don't have to do everything to still be aligned. In conversation, if you feel yourself wanting to prove, defend, or be right, notice it. That's ego identity at play. The middle way is choosing curiosity instead. Ask yourself, what's actually being revealed here? What's the mirror? That choice moves you out of reaction and into sovereignty. And this is what I mean by mental sovereignty: the power to choose your response in micro moments rather than being run by loops. Over time, these pauses and resets build a new default. You start to notice that you're no longer swinging between apathy and saviorism. You're standing in the middle way. You're not frozen, you're not frantic, you are just present, steady, and clear. And never feel like you need to jump in and automatically have an opinion. It is totally fine. You actually want to just be able to step back and be the observer. The middle way isn't passive. It is not doing nothing. It's choosing coherence as your baseline. So whatever you do carries weight and resonance instead of static. And that is how we dissolve the duality trap. We do it one micro choice at a time. So here are some practical steps. Here's how to step out of the loop and anchor your frequency. Number one, notice the loop and name it. When you catch yourself spiraling in thoughts, whether it's fear, outrage, or compulsive, I need to fix this energy, pause and literally name it. This is a loop, this isn't me. Just naming it breaks the spell of identification. Number two, shift your state physically. Loops are embodied. If you stay frozen in the same posture, the mind keeps firing the same signals. Stand up, shake your arms, walk barefoot outside, or splash cold water on your face. Moving the body changes the nervous system's rhythm and resets the signal. Number three, breathe into presence. Try a 5-5 breath, and that's an inhale for 5 seconds and an exhale for 5 seconds. This instantly starts pulling you out of sympathetic overdrive or fight or flight and into parasympathetic safety. You'll notice the thought spiral softening as your nervous system shifts. Number four, ask the frequency question. Instead of asking, is this thought true, which can trap you in debating it, ask, what frequency is this thought coming from? Fear, shame, obligation, or clarity, love, and insight. This reframes your mind as a receiver, not as an enemy, and this lets you retune. Number five, choose one small, coherent action. If the loop is pulling you toward frantic saviorism, pause and ask, what is one grounded action I can take from coherence, not reaction? Maybe it's texting a loved one, drinking water, or simply resting. Coherent action has weight, while reactive action just multiplies noise. Number six, curate your inputs. Remember, most loops are triggered by external cues. Doom scrolling, nonstop notifications, chaotic environments. Reduce inputs that keep your nervous system in beta. For example, TV news, social media arguments, and increase inputs that regulate you. For example, music, nature sounds, silence. Number seven, enter alpha or theta states daily. The nervous system can't heal if it never downshifts. Meditation, prayer, chanting, drumming, binaural beats. All of these train your brain to access alpha and theta, where loops dissolve and new coherence encodes. This is literal nervous system repair. Number eight, reclaim rituals of safety. Small cues like lighting a candle, drinking tea in silence, or putting your phone away at night tell your nervous system it's safe to downshift. Safety dissolves the need for compulsive thought loops. Number nine, anchor in gratitude or awe. So, it sounds cliche, but gratitude literally shifts your heart rhythm into coherence, which signals safety to your nervous system. The nervous system then tells the brain, we don't need to loop, we're safe. This breaks the spiral at the root. And then number 10, remember the spiral, not the ladder. You're not failing if the loop comes back. Loops are spiral lessons. Each time you see them, you're meeting them with more awareness. The key is not perfection, but coherence. Shorter loops, quicker resets, and steadier presence over time. So let's talk about how these traps work. The hijack doesn't only work by feeding you low frequency loops, it also works by hooking your ego identity. The mind wants stability. It wants to feel right because being wrong used to mean danger. The system exploits that. So here's how. Ego identification as the hook. When you identify your worth with a label, belief, or credential, that identity becomes a lever. For example, if your ego is tied to education or being the informed one, headlines like, "This political party is the most educated," or slogans like, "Follow the science," instantly trigger a defensive posture. Even though science is iterative, white papers can be biased, and consensus shifts, the ego can't afford for your side to be wrong. The nervous system interprets dissonance as threat. So instead of curiosity, you feel the impulse to argue, dismiss, or double down. And this happens on every side. If your ego is tied to patriotism or traditional values, you can be baited by equally manipulative cues. For example, real Americans support this. If you're not outraged by why, you're not one of us. This is what God-fearing people believe. So it's the same trap, just a different costume. And we see this done again and again. The nervous system doesn't care which ideology you hold, it cares about safety. If your identity is hooked, dissonance feels like danger. So here's another part of it. Reactiveness blocks logic. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning, weighing evidence, and impulse control, goes partially offline when your amygdala perceives threat. Under stress or identity threat, blood flow shifts from the frontal lobes to the limbic system. You literally become less logical and more reactive because your body thinks you're under attack. This is called the amygdala hijack in neuroscience. When your nervous system is dysregulated, your rational mind is running on much less capacity. That's why arguing almost never changes minds in heated states. Both people are essentially in fight or flight, not in the neural state for learning or empathy. So let's talk about the equation of a trap. So number one, there is an identity hook. The ego ties itself to a belief, group, or outcome. The number two, there's a trigger stimulus. There's a headline, post, slogan, policy, or even a comment from a friend. The number three, there's the threat response. The amygdala activates and the prefrontal cortex downshifts. Number four is the loop activation. Old stories, confirmation bias, and mental rigidity take over. The number five, entrenchment. The more you defend, the deeper the identification and the harder to shift. This is why the same person can be brilliant and nuanced at work, yet irrational online. It's not because they're dumb, it's because their nervous system is hijacked by an identity trigger loop. The trap doesn't care about which side you're on. It cares about keeping you in reactivity instead of coherence. As long as you're fighting, scrolling, or defending, your frequency stays low and your prefrontal cortex stays offline. When you regulate your nervous system, you break the equation at step 3. And remember, number 3 was threat response. The trigger still appears, but instead of going limbic, your prefrontal stays online. You can observe, breathe, and choose. And that's when discernment returns and the trap dissolves. Now let's talk about the ego trap of empathy. Empathy is one of the most beautiful and essential human capacities. It's what allows us to feel with others, to sense pain, to extend compassion. But in a hijacked field, even empathy can be weaponized. Here's how it works. The feminine current in the human blueprint, the part of us that feels, nurtures, receives, was designed to sense truth and generate compassion. But when that current is fragmented or distorted, empathy stops being clean and becomes a hook. Instead of being a bridge into wisdom, it turns into a lever for control. Manipulators, whether institutions, ideologies, or individuals, exploit this by pairing fear and guilt with emotionally charged stories. In organized religion, the dark side of the masculine current controls through guilt. You may hear the narrative, you are inherently sinful, you must obey to be saved. This bypasses sovereignty by making you feel perpetually indebted. And then in political or social movements, the dark side of the feminine current controls by weaponizing empathy. You may hear narratives like, if you don't support this, you're heartless. If you question this narrative, you're a monster. This bypasses discernment by making you feel perpetually responsible for everyone else's suffering. Both are the same equation. Fear plus guilt equals manipulation. On one side, guilt says, I'm bad, and that's a masculine distortion. On the other, guilt says, I'm not doing enough, and that's feminine distortion. In both cases, the nervous system goes into survival mode, the prefrontal cortex goes offline, and you become easier to control, either by shame or by weaponized compassion. This is the ego trap of empathy. The false belief that you must endlessly self-sacrifice, fix everyone, or emotionally agree with every narrative in order to be good. True empathy becomes entangled with your ego identity. I'm a good person if I help. I'm educated if I agree. I'm evolved if I support this. The moment your ego is tied to a label, good, moral, smart, virtuous, it can be manipulated by threatening that identity. Here are some examples. A university educated person is told, all smart people believe X. So they double down on X to protect their identity as smart, even if evidence shifts. A socially conscious person is told, if you question this movement, you're complicit in harm. So they suppress discernment to protect their identity as kind. A devout person is told, if you doubt this teaching, you're sinning. So they obey to protect their identity as faithful. This is hijacked empathy. Empathy weaponized by fear and guilt, rooted in a fractured feminine current. True empathy doesn't override discernment. True empathy feels, but it also sees. It allows you to care without collapsing, to witness suffering without absorbing it, to offer help without losing sovereignty. It's the difference between coherent compassion and compulsive saviorism. So, how do you prevent the trap? Number 1, separate empathy from identity. You're not bad or good based on your emotional agreement with a narrative. Number 2, notice guilt hooks. If empathy is making you feel guilty, frantic, or pressured, pause. That's likely a hijack. Number 3, anchor your nervous system first. Feel, breathe, regulate, then decide what action, if any, to take. Number 4, practice sovereign service. Help where you're called, not where you're shamed. Offer care from clarity, not coercion. This is the restoration of the feminine current. When empathy flows through a regulated nervous system, it becomes a stabilizing force, not a weapon. You can feel everything without being hooked by anything. You can offer compassion without sacrificing discernment. Now let's talk about healing as a spiral, not a straight line. Healing the mind isn't a one and done process. It's not linear progress from broken to healed. It's a spiral. You visit old patterns, old wounds, old stories. But each time you do, you're meeting them from a higher vantage point. The loop comes back, but you're not the same. You're stronger, clearer, more aware. Part of this process involves shadow work, facing the unresolved parts of yourself, the traumas you've carried, and the loops you've been running. At first, this can feel raw and heavy because you're still caught in the reactive field of collective frequencies. You're sifting through fear, shame, anger, or grief while still being triggered by the outer world. But there's a tipping point. Once you stabilize your nervous system and tune into a higher frequency, once your dial lands on the right station, shadow work changes. It becomes more elegant, more efficient, less overwhelming. Instead of drowning in reactivity, you begin to approach your inner world with calm curiosity. Instead of bracing against your trauma, you can witness it, feel it, and let it unwind without collapsing into it. At this stage, the outer world shifts from being a battleground of triggers to being a mirror of refinement. When someone challenges you, instead of spiraling into defensiveness, you can pause and ask, what is this reflecting back to me? What part of me is being revealed for deeper integration? The mirror can show you your unhealed edges, not so you shame yourself, but so you can bring them into coherence. It can also show you more about others, their wounds, their stories, their frequencies. Instead of reacting, you develop compassion. You see the loop they're stuck in without getting pulled into it yourself. This is when life itself becomes your greatest teacher. Every conversation, every relationship dynamic, every collective event becomes feedback. The spiral is no longer about being tossed into the waves. It's about learning to surf them, to read the patterns, to choose coherence even in the face of distortion. Over time, this way of living turns shadow work from something heavy into something almost artistic. It's not about endlessly digging for trauma. It's about allowing mirrors to show you what wants to be integrated now in this moment. You move from survival shadow work to sovereign shadow work. Not trapped in loops, but refining your tone with every turn of the spiral. Now let's talk about the mind as the golden bridge. Your mind was never meant to be a prison, it was designed to be a bridge. The fourth dimension, the mental plane, is the place where timelines collapse into the present moment. When your nervous system is regulated and your mind is clear, you're not stuck in the past, you're not anxiously projecting into the future. You're here, in rhythm and flow. At its highest expression, the mind is what mystics have called the golden bridge. The nervous system literally wraps itself in golden myelin, a sheath that transmits signals without distortion. Thoughts move more clearly, presence radiates, and your field becomes calm and steady. On a practical level, this feels like mental spaciousness. Instead of racing thoughts, you experience single-pointed clarity. Instead of reactive loops, you have response flexibility. When your nervous system is regulated, your perception shifts from scanning for danger to scanning for alignment. You notice opportunities you would have missed before. Small nudges, an idea, a name, a pull to go somewhere, stand out clearly instead of being buried in mental noise. And this is what most people describe as living in synchronicity. It's not magic in the snap your fingers and manifest sense. It's the nervous system functioning as it was designed to. A regulated, coherent nervous system and mind create a feedback loop with reality. Your focus becomes clear, your energy steadies, and the external world begins reflecting that steadiness back to you. In this state, manifestation isn't about forcing reality, it's about resonance. Your thoughts, emotions, and nervous system signals are frequencies. When those frequencies are coherent and steady, you naturally align with people, opportunities, and events that match your inner state. This is why it can feel like things just happen or flow when you're calm and clear. The golden bridge of the mind also allows you to hold multiple possibilities without collapsing into fear. You can think, imagine, or plan from an open, creative state instead of a contracted, survival-driven one. This means you can choose timelines more consciously. Instead of reacting to the loudest external input, you become a deliberate co-creator. selecting the tone you want to carry and letting reality mirror it back. Here's a grounded example. When you're dysregulated, you might miss a text, forget an opportunity, or spiral about the future. When you're regulated, that same opportunity feels obvious. That same text feels like perfect timing, and your next action feels natural and inspired. Nothing outside changed, your internal signal did. This is why the mind as the golden bridge is so powerful. It doesn't just give you peace inside, it reshapes your perception of reality outside. The clearer your signal, the clearer your mirror. The steadier your tone, the steadier your life becomes. At this level, what some call instant manifestation isn't instant magic, it's instant feedback. Reality becomes a mirror so responsive to your inner state that it feels instantaneous. This is the blueprint restored in your mind. It's not just freedom from mental loops, but the ability to live in a reality that reflects coherence, alignment, and presence back to you. Now let's talk about anchoring the golden bridge in a felt sense. So it's one thing to understand the golden bridge with your mind, but it's another to feel it in your body. Let's make this real for a moment. So notice what happens when your thoughts slow. There's a soft spaciousness that opens up inside. Instead of 5 conversations in your head at once, there's just one clear thread. It feels like your awareness expands, like you have room to breathe again. Notice too what it's like when reality mirrors your tone. When you're steady inside, the world meets you differently. The traffic light turns green right as you arrive. A friend texts at the perfect time. The solution to a problem just comes. That isn't random, that's the feedback loop of coherence. So let's anchor this together. Take a breath in through your nose and exhale slowly out of your mouth. Imagine golden threads of light gently wrapping around your nerves like soft silk or warm sunlight. See these golden filaments strengthening the pathways in your body, carrying clear signals without distortion. Each breath you take adds another layer of gold, weaving steadiness through your entire system. So just keep breathing. Stay here for just a moment, feeling your own nervous system becoming a bridge, calm, strong, and radiant. That felt sense is the golden bridge, and it's something alive in your body right now. So, now let's talk about taking back your mental sovereignty. Remember, none of this is about theory. It's about practices that can literally change how your mind functions day to day. So, think of these as the daily bricks that rebuild your golden bridge. Number 1, create safety zones. Your nervous system won't repair if it doesn't feel safe. So, here are some ideas. Don't put your phone by your bed. Make sure you get sunlight before screens in the morning. And have boundaries with outrage driven media. Safety is the first medicine. When your nervous system stops scanning for threats, it can finally repair. This is the foundation for mental sovereignty. Number 2, reclaim your brainwaves. Most of us live locked in restless beta, the frequency of stress and reactivity. Alpha is the rhythm of presence. You reach it through nature, rhythmic breath, prayer, or slow walks. Theta is the state of deep repair. You access it through meditation, chanting, drumming, or binaural beats. Without alpha as scaffolding, theta can feel ungrounded. But with alpha, theta is where trauma dissolves, timelines release, and time collapses back into now. This is how you take the mind out of loops and back into flow. Number 3, nourish the electrical body. Your nervous system is electrical. It needs nourishment to fire cleanly. Minerals, potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium. These are essential, not optional. Water, mineralized or structured water helps signals travel clearly. Plant allies, cacao or matcha stabilize focus without scrambling rhythms. Nervines, chamomile, lemon balm, ashwagandha soothe without sedating. These literally feed your myelin, the sheath around your nerves. When it's strong, signals travel smoothly instead of scattering. That's coherence at the physical level. Number 4, protect your sleep like a temple. Sleep is where your nervous system repairs itself. If you're around screens, you can use orange or red lens glasses after sunset. Keep your room dark, cool, and Wi-Fi free. Protect REM and deep sleep cycles. That's where your brain enters theta and your myelin regenerates. If you do nothing else, protect your sleep. It's the most powerful nervous system medicine you have. Number 5, gentle movement to discharge charge. The nervous system holds a memory in the body. If that static isn't released, the mind keeps looping. Shaking, stretching, qigong, yoga, all reset circuits. Even a few minutes of barefoot walking outside can reset the vagus nerve. The mind calms once the body discharges what it's been holding. Now, number 6, emotional coherence practices. Gratitude, compassion, prayer. These aren't just nice ideas. They literally shift your heart rhythm, which shifts your nervous system, which shifts your brainwaves. Gratitude is timeline reset. Compassion is mind repair. Love is nervous system regulation. This is the true frequency work of the mental plane. Now let's talk about the collective mind. This isn't just an individual journey. The collective mind is moving through the same process. Humanity as a whole is untangling from old loops of fear, fragmentation, and hypervigilance, while gradually learning to stabilize into coherence. That's why so many people are experiencing heightened mental pressure right now. Looping thoughts, anxiety, overactive minds, or a sense of being stuck in their head. These aren't personal failures, they're signs of a collective nervous system reorganizing itself. You can actually see this process mirrored in culture. The first is news outrage cycles. Headlines are designed to keep us in constant survival mode. Each crisis demands emotional reaction but rarely offers resolution, a reflection of the collective mind still stuck in trauma loops. Number 2, social media polarization. Platforms amplify division because outrage drives engagement. This mirrors the collective nervous system oscillating between fight and flight. Unable to rest into coherence, it exaggerates duality. And then number 3, cultural anxiety around change. Whether it's debates about technology, politics, or climate, much of the discourse carries a frantic urgency. This reflects the collective field trying to reorganize. The nervous system of humanity sensing instability and grasping for control. As the collective mind recalibrates, individuals who regulate their own system become anchors. Your coherence doesn't just stabilize you, it ripples out in training others into steadiness and flow. This is how personal sovereignty contributes to collective healing. One regulated mind becomes a tuning fork for many. The same phases apply at the group level as the personal one: activation, integration, stabilization. Sometimes the field feels chaotic because it's digesting new energy. Other times it feels calm and clear because stabilization has taken root. Whenever you feel yourself cycling through these phases, you are part of the collective spiral of repair. And just like in your own life, the collective field acts as a mirror. What plays out in culture, media, and relationships often reflects unresolved loops in the wider human nervous system. If you can take a step back and see these patterns without collapsing into reactivity, you can use them the same way you would a personal trigger, as a mirror for self growth, deeper understanding, and compassion. In this way, both your inner work and your outer observations become part of restoring coherence at every level. Now, let's talk about using life and the collective field as a mirror and training ground. Mirrors aren't just reflections, they're a dojo. In a spiritual sense, a dojo is considered a place to cultivate not only physical skill, but also mental focus, respect, and self mastery. By mirror, I mean anything in your outer world that reflects back your inner state. It could be a person's reaction, a cultural trend, an event, or even your own emotional response to what's happening. The outer field mirrors the frequencies you're carrying inside, showing you where coherence is strong and where there are still distortions to integrate. Your daily life in the collective field will keep offering pressure tests, situations that activate your nervous system, challenge your perspective, or press on your unhealed edges. Those aren't punishments, they're practice rounds. Every mirror gives you a chance to see what tone you're really broadcasting and practice holding your frequency in the wild. So let's talk about types of mirror in your life and the collective. Number one, shadow mirrors. These show you the parts of yourself you haven't fully integrated yet. So here's an example. Someone criticizes you, and instead of brushing it off, you feel a sharp sting. That sting is the mirror showing you where an old wound still lives. And the purpose is shadow mirrors help you notice unresolved loops, trauma imprints, or survival patterns that still influence your nervous system. They aren't meant to shame you, but to reveal what wants coherence. Number two are distortion mirrors. These reflect the collective static more than your personal truth. Here's an example. Doom scrolling through social media, you feel a wave of anxiety or despair. It's not all yours, but your system is sensitive to the collective field and starts resonating with it. The purpose is distortion mirrors train you to discern what's actually your signal versus what's static. They teach you boundary setting and energetic clarity. I feel this one a lot when I'm scrolling on social media. Number three, golden mirrors. These reflect back your coherence, clarity, and true tone. So here's an example. You walk into a room calm and regulated, and others feel themselves relaxing just by being near you. Or synchronicities line up easily when you're in flow. So the purpose is golden mirrors confirm that your frequency is stabilized. They remind you that coherence radiates outward and that your state impacts the collective. Number four is paradox mirrors. These appear when your actions from coherence look wrong to others still living in loops. So here's an example. Choosing rest instead of frantic activism may look like apathy, or calmly speaking truth may look delusional to someone in fear. So here's the purpose. Paradox mirrors test your ability to trust your inner tone, even when the outer feedback looks distorted. These are dojo level training and sovereignty. So let's talk about why the mirrors matter. Mirrors aren't just reflections, they're feedback systems and training grounds. They show you where you're broadcasting from and offer opportunities to refine your tone. They're not about judgment, but about clarity. Once you start seeing life this way, every interaction, whether it feels pleasant or challenging, becomes a practice in coherence. So here's how to work with mirrors, both in your personal life and on a collective level. So number one, spot the charge. Notice where your body spikes, tight chest, heat, jaw tension, or your mind loops. You feel the need to defend, attack, or obsess. The charge equals useful data. Number two, name the pattern. Ask, what is this showing me? So here are some common mirrors. Envy or jealousy could mean that I perceive I'm lacking this quality or permission. Outrage or indignation could mean a boundary or value is requesting clear expression. Contempt or superiority could mean a disowned part wants integrating, your shadow wants integrating. Idolization or over idealizing could point to a golden quality that I'm ready to embody myself. Number 3, frequency check, not fact debate. Instead of asking, is this right or wrong? Ask, what frequency is this? Fear, shame, coherence? This keeps you out of binary traps and in tone discernment. Number 4, regulate and then relate. Take 1 to 3 minutes to regulate. You could do 5-on-5 breathing, humming, or you could step outside. And then only engage the person or the topic after your nervous system softens. Coherence first, action second. Number 5, choose the coherent micro action. One grounded move that aligns with your values without feeding the loop. Send a thoughtful message, clarify a boundary, donate quietly, rest, or simply don't engage. Number 6, close the loop somatically. Shake, stretch, walk, or journal 3 lines about what you learned. Teach your body that the cycle can end without drama. Number 7, track the metrics that matter. Note 3 signs of progress. Recovery time, how quickly you return to baseline. Charge intensity, how strong it feels. And behavior shift, did you respond differently? If any one improves, you're rewiring. So now let's talk about working with collective mirrors, media, social, and cultural. Dose the exposure. Treat the feed like weight training. Low dose, high intention. Enter with a regulated state and exit when charge arises. Preset a purpose. Put it out there, I'm here to stay informed on X for 10 minutes versus open-ended doom scrolling. Translate the story. Ask, what human nervous system pattern is this reflecting? Fight or flight, fawn, freeze. This depersonalizes the trigger and restores compassion. Then aftercare equals integration. A few minutes of nature, breath, or journaling prevents residue from becoming a loop. So let's talk about when it's a mirror versus when it's trauma. If your system floods, disassociates, or can't downshift after basic regulation, pause this mirror work and seek trauma-informed support. Mirrors are for refinement, but acute trauma needs containment and even more care. So here are some common mirror scenarios and reframes. So let's say you are envious of someone's success. This is a signal that you're ready to express more of this quality. So ask yourself, what's my first coherent step? If you feel moral outrage online, this signals that there's a boundary or value you care about. So, what action carries weight without feeding reactivity? If you are feeling judged or misunderstood, this is a practice in self attunement. Can you hold your tone without over explaining? If you are idolizing a teacher or a leader, this could be a golden shadow. Name the trait you admire and practice it in one small way today. So here's the dojo mindset for stabilizers. Pressure is curriculum. The field isn't trying to break you, it's training your signal. Coherence over correctness. Being right while dysregulated still scrambles the grid. Do short, clean reps. Brief exposures plus full resets build capacity faster than marathons. So here's a 60-second mirror protocol that you could use anywhere. Number 1, name the charge. And then number 2, do the 5 breath for 6 cycles. And when I say 5 5, I mean 5 count inhale and a 5 count exhale. And then after that, ask yourself, what frequency is this? And then choose one coherent micro action or non action. And then shake it out for 20 seconds. Get rid of it somatically. So now let's link the mind and the body. In part 2, we explored the body as the architecture of coherence. And today we've gone deep into the mind. But remember, these are not two separate conversations. This is one system. When the body stabilizes, the mind stabilizes. A regulated nervous system, nourished fascia, steady minerals, and coherent breath literally shift what frequencies your mind can tune into. Without that, the mental hijack is almost impossible to resist because the vessel itself is dysregulated. And the reverse is true. When the mind stabilizes, the body locks into deeper coherence. Your thoughts, your focus, your inner dialogue, they all send signals to the nervous system and hormones. A calm, present mind tells the body, we are safe, which allows repair, digestion, and regeneration to unfold. And this creates a feedback loop. The more you tend to your body, the clearer your mind becomes. The clearer your mind, the easier it is to care for your body. This is why both episodes matter. They are two sides of the same golden bridge. So I want to say this plainly. Don't try to fix your mind with willpower alone. Willpower is a beta wave survival tool. It works for a moment, but burns you out in the long run. If your body is depleted, inflamed, or dysregulated, your mind will keep looping no matter how hard you try to think differently. The way forward is coherence. Nourish the vessel, regulate the nervous system, and let your thoughts arise from that stabilized foundation. That's when your mind shifts from static to signal, from prison to bridge. Now let's talk about loving others through the hijack. One of the hardest parts of this work is when it's not just about you, it's about someone you love. Maybe it's a partner, a friend, or a family member who feels trapped in confusion, fear, or disillusion. Their mind is caught in the very loops we've been talking about. And when you see it, it can be really painful. Here's what's important to remember. Separate the soul from the current expression. Their essence, their soul, is untouched, eternal, and whole. The distortion you see in their actions, their words, or their choices is the hijacked nervous system, not the truth of who they are. That doesn't mean enabling. It means you can love them without collapsing into their loops. You can hold compassion without abandoning your own coherence. Sometimes this looks like loving from afar, sending peace and steadiness through the field while maintaining strong boundaries in the physical. Other times it looks like holding space without debate, resisting the urge to prove or argue, knowing that logic rarely lands when someone is in a dysregulated state. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are love. They protect your frequency so that when the other person is ready, they can feel your steadiness instead of your burnout. And here's the paradox. Your coherence does more than any argument ever could. A calm nervous system entrains others far more powerfully than frantic persuasion. By holding your tone, you become a living mirror, showing them what clarity feels like without needing to convince them with words. So if you're walking this path with people in your life who feel stuck, remember, love the soul, not the loop. Hold your own field. Let boundaries be an act of compassion. Because sometimes the most powerful way you can love someone is not by pulling them out of the water, but by becoming a lighthouse they can see when they're ready. So let's close this. The mind is not the enemy. It's not something you have to escape, silence, or suppress. It's the golden bridge of your embodiment, the conductor that was designed to carry light into presence. When the mind is hijacked, it loops. It fixates. It builds cages out of fear, guilt, or overactivity. But when it is restored, nourished, regulated, and protected, It becomes radiant. It becomes clear. It becomes the bridge that connects your body, your tone, and your source into a coherent whole. And the path back isn't abstract. It's found in the smallest choices: sunlight instead of scrolling, gratitude instead of rumination, minerals instead of depletion, sleep instead of overstimulation, breath instead of reaction. Every one of those choices is like laying down another golden thread of myelin, another strand of coherence wrapping your nervous system so that signals transmit cleanly, clearly, and without distortion. This is how your mind stops being a cage and becomes a bridge. This is how you stop being trapped in loops and start living in flow. This is how you remember that thoughts are not who you are, they are signals, and you always have the power to choose which frequency you tune to. And here's a huge part of it all. When you restore coherence in your own mind, you're not just changing yourself, you're shifting the grid. Your steadiness ripples out. Others feel calmer, safer, more present around you. Your coherence becomes a lighthouse for loved ones who may be stuck in loops of fear, guilt, or confusion. You don't need to save them or argue them into clarity. You simply embody it, and that embodiment becomes the mirror they didn't know they were looking for. And this is why boundaries matter. This is why holding your own field matters. Because the most powerful way you love others is not by collapsing into their storm, but by remaining steady, by becoming the anchor they can recognize when they're ready to rise. And the reason this matters now is because the collective mind itself is at an inflection point. Humanity is moving through the same process of loops, pressure, and recalibration. Every regulated mind helps stabilize the whole. One coherent nervous system doesn't just shift a life, it shifts the grid. So if you've ever felt trapped in your thoughts, hear this clearly. Your mind was never meant to be a prison. It was always meant to be a golden bridge. When you restore it, you step into freedom. You live fully present, fully embodied, fully aligned. And by doing so, you light the way for others. So that's all I have for this episode. Next time, we will go into the Blueprint Restored Part 5 on Earth. And like I've been mentioning, go follow me on Patreon. It is linked in the show notes. And I've been posting both on the free tier if you just become a member, and I've been posting on the paid tier if you feel like you want even more behind the scenes content. Also, very important, I've mentioned it in the last few episodes, go do the guided Merkaba activation. That is on Patreon, and it is for free. So I love you all, and I'll see you next week.